Yo, what's up YouTube? So in the last year or so, I've been highly requested with making a controller settings video, and I've just never had the chance to do it. That is definitely not a fucking lie. I'm just super lazy. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? I think it's about time that I make it. So sat down today and just started recording and I was like, all right, let's get it. All right, so the first set of settings I wanted to go over are going to be my gameplay settings. I won't be going over every single setting in this tab, but I will be going over the ones that I think are most important. Starting off with the crosshair damage feedback, which is just the hit marker and the color of shield that shows up whenever you shoot someone. Now, I would recommend having this one on at all times. That way you can actually see when you're hitting your enemy and what color shield they have. As you can see, whenever I shoot them, a little number pops up with the color right around it. The next one I have is damage numbers. You definitely always want it on stacking. That way you can tell how much damage you're doing as a whole. For example, if I shoot him right now, 72 damage, I can just straight up read what number it's telling me instead of having it completely off, which it just won't tell me how much damage I'm doing. With floating, I don't know, I wouldn't ever have that one on. It tells you how much damage you're doing per bullet, but it doesn't add it up for you, so you can't really tell how much damage you're doing as a whole. And with both, I also wouldn't recommend, because then it's just too much happening on your screen. Now, the next one is your ping opacity. I would always set it to faded, because if it's on default, then your pings are just a little too bright and sometimes they're kind of hard to see through. So if an enemy is pinged and they're standing behind the ping and you have this set to default, it's going to be kind of hard to see them. Always set it to faded. Now, obituaries are very important because that way you can actually see your kill feed. You can tell when people are trading during gunfights. It'll help with timing on third parties and all that. Definitely always keep it on. Minimap rotation is 100% preference. I like to have it on that way I can actually tell which way I'm going on the map. If I set it to just normal or default static, whatever, I get confused because the minimap isn't actually rotating with me. So yeah. Now, weapon auto cycle on empty, I've never had this one on. I don't think this one's very important. Just switch off a gun whenever you run out of ammo. Now, auto sprint is actually really important setting for controller, because if you have it off and you're constantly pressing your sprint button, your analog stick is going to give out way sooner than you want it to, and you're going to have to replace that controller soon. So I would just set it on that way you don't have to constantly press it. Definitely keep it on at all times if you're a controller player. Now, jetpack control. I've always been a toggle gamer, so I've always kept this one on toggle. Some of you can set it to hold, some of you can set it to toggle. It doesn't really matter, it's just preference. Incoming damage feedback. This one 1,000,000% needs to be set to 2D. If you have it set to 3D or 2D and both, then it's just too much happening on your screen. 3D, sometimes it's just, you can't really see where exactly the shots are coming from because the 3D just moves around and it's just like, it's too small most of the time. So let me give you guys an example real quick of what it looks like. So this is what the 3D arrows look like. They just pop up on your screen, and I don't know. I would recommend the 2D. It just looks way better. It's a lot cleaner, and you could always tell where it's coming from no matter what. That's what the 2D looks like. Way cleaner, way simpler, easy to tell where it's coming from. I would just always have it set to this one. Taking damage closes death box or crafting menu. This is by far the most important setting in the entire game. If you are mid gunfight and you need an armor swap and you open up a box and get shot before you even are able to get this armor, it'll close you out of that death box so fast and you're just dead. There's nothing you can do about it. So always have this set to off no matter what. If you have it on and you try to craft or you try to open a death box, it'll just instantly take you out of whatever you're doing as soon as you take damage. All right, now let's get started with the controller settings here. The most important settings as a controller player, obviously. For button layout, I actually have this set to customize, and this is gonna be a little weird, but I crouch with R1. I crouch with R1 and I ping with circle. So I actually hold my controller in a slightly different way. I have my index finger set on my right bumper and my middle finger set on my right trigger. And if you look at the bottom of my screen, you can actually tell that the way I use my ultimate is with L1 and circle. Like I said, I also ping with circle, so it's a little different, but the reason I do that is because back in the day when I played Call of Duty, I didn't have any controllers with back buttons. So I was like, dude, I need to find a way to jump and shoot and do everything else at the same time without taking off my thumb from the right stick. And I was like, you know what? I can do it with R1. So that transitioned over to Apex, and I just crouch with it now. My stick layout is set to default. I've never really touched these or messed with them. Interact and reload button is set to tap to use and reload. Now this one, I would just recommend this one. I mean, the other two I've never really messed with, but I just know this is by far the best setting. My crouch is set to toggle. Always been a toggle gamer. It's just personal preference. I just like how toggle feels. Hold just completely throws me off. Aim, there's just no question. It should be set to hold. Survival slot button, the only reason I have it set to off is because I like to mess with my heirlooms whenever I'm sprinting. But for most of you, this should be set to on. That way you can actually set down heat shields and evac towers without actually having to press start and open up your survival slot. My trigger dead zones are set to none. You probably don't want dead zones on your triggers. You just want them to none, so that way you can actually shoot as soon as you press down on your trigger. If you have them set to any higher, I don't know. It might take longer for you to actually shoot, which can cost you in some gunfights because obviously shooting first will win you gunfights most of the time. Now my menu cursor speed is set relatively high. It's around the 60 to 70% area just because I like having a faster cursor speed for armor swapping and just looting in general. Now my look sensitivity and my ADS. I think I'm one of the only controller players left that are playing on 4.4. Most have moved on to either 4.3, 4.3 linear, 4.3 classic, or ALCs. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think there's an OP sensitivity in the game. It's just all preference. It's all a feeling. It's all placebo for the most part as well. Whenever you switch to a sensitivity and you think you're doing better, anywhere in the 3 to 5 range is good. Anything higher than that or lower than that is just too slow or too high. But yeah, I feel like 4.4 is just not a problem for me. I'm able to keep up with any other player with any other sensitivity in the game, and I just straight up, sense doesn't make the player. You know, the player makes the sense. So if you're good enough, you will be able to one clip and just kill anyone that ever comes in your way. My pro optic settings are all set to 4 except for my 6 and 10 times. And the reason I have these two set to 6 is because this is the Kraber scope. 4 is just way too slow for the Krabers, so I upped it to 6. That way I can actually drag it and flick it onto people whenever they're sprinting or whenever they're close by. The rest are set to 4 just because I just like how 4 feels on all these other optics. Now my response curve is set to classic, 4.4 classic all the way. My look dead zone is set to none. If you don't have any controller stick drift or whatever, definitely set it to none. No matter what sensitivity you're on. None is just the way to go whenever you're playing on any kind of dead zone. Now, out of these last settings, the only one I would talk about here is vibration. Always keep vibration off in any FPS game, because vibration can actually mess with your aim, even if it's just slightly. So always keep it off. Now, finally, my video settings. These I wouldn't go over too much, but just know that I have everything either set to turned off, disabled, or low. I have a few here and there that are, you know, set a little different. But for the most part, you want them all low because you just want to have the highest FPS possible in the game so that you can actually, you know, keep up. And obviously this little one right here, sprint view shake, always set to minimum. That way, whenever you're sprinting, your screen isn't actually shaking all over the place and you can see what's going on. But anyway, hope you guys did enjoy today. If you guys do have any more questions about my controller settings or any settings in the game, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll try to get back to you guys. Yeah, have a good one. Make sure to drop a like if you guys enjoyed, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.